So in today's video, we're gonna build sort of a generative space ambient track from scratch. And to do that, we're gonna use VCV Rack 2 inside of the DAW. One of the reasons why I love VCV Rack and Virtual Modular so much is that it allows you to create these really interesting musical phrases and movements. And as Omri Cohen said in the interview that we did on our podcast, the modules themselves are like fungi and a mycelium network that connects and talks to each other while making the actual music. I found that working this way with Eurorack and Virtual Modular has really liberated me creatively and refueled my passion for synthesis. So that being said, let's get into the video. Make sure you smash that like button on the way in, get subscribed if you aren't already, and let's dive in. In today's video, we're gonna build a space ambient track / generative piece from scratch. And to do that, we're actually gonna use VCV Rack 2. Now, I'm using VCV Rack 2 Pro in the DAW. You can follow along in the standalone version. I'm also using Ableton Live 12, so feel free to follow along in any other DAW of your choice. I'm gonna try to go as slow as I can for those of you who are trying to get up to speed with VCV Rack. But you know, if this is your first time or you're well experienced, feel free, go ahead and stay tuned. You might learn something. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. I'm gonna grab VCV Rack 2 and place it in my DAW. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna, first things first, we need to connect our Ableton clock to VCV Rack. Now to do that, I have a MIDI to CV module here, and I'm also gonna grab Clocked from Impromptu, and I'm going to connect the two together. Now I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in here. You can see we have a clocked output here coming from the MIDI to CV module. I'll go ahead and change the color here to blue and put it into the BPM of Clocked. Because Ableton is already playing, you can see Clocked attempts to adjust its BPM to match, okay? I found the mode is best used on P24. That's working good for me right now. It's not perfect, the sync between VCV and Ableton, but it's pretty close and you know, it's enough to get by, certainly. Okay, cool. Now let's go ahead and start making our little generative module piece here, all right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab some modules. Now, again, I'm gonna go as slow as I can, so I'm just gonna grab an AD here, and we'll use that as our attack decay. This is from Bogue Audio, the AD. And we'll go ahead and grab a VCA from VCV Rack. We'll use that. We're gonna use a sample and hold. We're also gonna use the Bogue Audio sample and hold. That's good. We're gonna grab a quantum. So we'll go ahead and grab a quantum. We're gonna use this to quantize our notes. We'll grab a quantum and we're gonna grab a palette, right? And we'll go ahead and grab one more VCA from VCV. Okay. Very good. Now that's going to be our starting point. All right. Now the first thing we want to do is we want to adjust our clocked so it's a little bit slower than 96. Now I love the clock module because it has all these ratio knobs here. And what we can do is divide our clock by 6. All right. So that's 6 times divided by 96 beats per minute. So we can take this and we can put it into our AD module. So let's go ahead and change the color to blue and we'll start triggering our AD. Now the most important thing you need to set on the AD module is to turn off retrigger. You can see the RT is enabled right now. I'm going to turn that off because we want it to retrigger when we want it to retrigger, all right? So let's go ahead and adjust our AD to like 4 seconds here. That looks good. Very good. Okay, now let's go ahead and use the end of cycle output. This is my favorite output on most modules is end of cycle. Why? Because end of cycle means that when the cycle is finally completed, then it fires off a trigger. This is really helpful for making sure that our notes are only gonna change at the end of each AD cycle, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and use the end of cycle and put it into the gate here of the sample and hold, okay? So our sample and hold is going to change our notes for us. We're also gonna limit the amount that it's gonna change by using this VCA, all right? So let's go ahead and grab the output of this sample and hold. We'll put it into the input of the VCA. Put the output here, make it yellow, into the quantum. I'm gonna play in C minor here today. So let's go ahead and just punch in some notes in C minor. That looks good. I'm playing a C, D sharp, G, and A sharp, all right? And we'll take the output of the quantum and we'll place that into the volts per octave of palette. Okay, now the other thing we need to do is take the envelope output of the envelope here, and we're gonna take this and we're gonna put it into the VCA, all right? So it's gonna modulate. As you can see, when the envelope is going, the VCA is gonna open and close, all right? Now the last thing we need to do is we need to take the mix out from palette and put it into the VCA, and then we're going to connect the output into our mixer. Now, again, if you're using the standalone, you're going to connect this right to the, whatever output module you're using. I'm using the MindMeld Mix Master up here, so I'm going to take this and connect it right to there. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and take this, and we're going to connect it to our mixer. There we go. All right, so we've got sound. All right, so now as you can see that when this trigger fires off, right, it triggers palette. But the other cool thing that we have here going on is that this sample and hold module is getting the end of cycle output from this AD module, which means it's changing notes or it's firing off a new value into quantum, but it's only happening when that cycle ends, which is really cool, okay? So I love this. Come back to Ableton here, put it through this synth bus. We can turn up some reverb and just bliss out early. Listen to this. Oh yeah. Love that stuff, right? Love that. So what we're gonna do now is we're going to duplicate all of this, all right? And we're actually gonna make two voices and have them sort of running in parallel, all right? I like that idea. So let's go ahead and we're gonna turn off the reverb and delay. We'll come back to VCV and we'll just disconnect this for now. And we're gonna go ahead and duplicate all this. So I'll go ahead and select all these modules and hit Control D. And it went ahead and it moved it all over here. So we'll grab all these and we'll put them right underneath. Okay, cool. So now the other thing we're gonna do is we're gonna introduce some little bit of like chants to kind of really like, press home the whole generative idea, right? So let's go ahead and grab the Bernoulli gate. Now this was called branches in hardware, but it's called the Bernoulli gate here, right? And what Bernoulli gate is basically just a coin toss. So if we take the output from our clocked here and put it into the Bernoulli gate, now we have a 50% chance because the knob is right there sitting at 50%. So it's a 50% chance whether out A or out B is gonna fire. That's exactly what we want, all right? So we can connect out B or out B to our second one. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll connect out B to our second AD. Now, because I duplicated it, all the settings are still the same, right? We can change these a little bit. Make this a little bit faster and a little bit slower decay, okay? We'll take the end of cycle, right? And we'll take the end of cycle output and put it into the gate. Remember this, we're doing the sample and hold. We're gonna trigger the sample and hold with the end of cycle, right? We're gonna take the output of this and we're gonna put it into our VCA to limit the amount of notes that we can play. Take the output of the VCA, put it into our quantum, take the output of quantum, put it into the volts per octave of palette, and finally, we're gonna take the envelope out here and put it into the VCA, right? To make sure that VCA moves. And finally, we're gonna take the mix out of palette and put it into our VCA. Now, before we change palette, we're gonna change palette a little bit. We're gonna say, maybe make this the granular format one. And we're gonna change the octave here. So we'll change it to like down to 3. Okay, cool. Now let's reconnect both of our modules. We're gonna take the output of VCA and put it into our mixer here, and then put the output of this VCA into channel 2. Okay, go ahead and make some sound when you're ready. All right, let's go ahead and connect this one too. There we go. Excellent. Oh yeah. So now our second one is firing off. There we go. Let's put back that reverb and delay. Oh yeah. Nice. So now, as you can see, there's a 50% chance here which channel is gonna fire off. And they're both doing different things, right? One is doing the granular format thing, the other one's doing the classic waveforms. Oh yeah, this is good stuff. But because they're both in tune with each other, but they're playing different notes, you kind of get these like chords sometimes, and we've changed the delay time. Like everything about it is like generative. I mean, come on now, that's gorgeous. That is so gorgeous. Now let's take it one step further, all right? So here's what we're also gonna do. We're gonna add some movement into this piece, all right? Now I'm gonna use the 8FO. The reason why I'm using the 8FO is because I usually use Oct here. I have Oct in hardware, but I'm gonna use the 8FO because Instruo has not ported over its code to the Mac architecture yet. So those of you who have like an M1, M2, M3 Macs are out of luck with the Instruo stuff for now. It's gonna change soon, but not yet. So we'll use the 8FO here. And 8FO is basically a phase modulated 8 LFOs, right? That we can do something with. So we can change the hertz rate here and slow it down to like somewhere around there, above 0.1. And we'll take the output, the phase output, and we'll start modulating some of the parts of palette. So we'll connect it to the timbre CV input. Change the attenuator here, okay? We'll take this one, put it into the morph CV input. There we go. Oh yeah. Change the color here, make it green. There we go. Take a green cable, connect it to the timbre CV input here, adjust the attenuator, and then we'll take this one and we'll connect that to the morph CV input. There we go. Oh yeah. Very nice, very nice. Love that. Now, this is like the tip of the iceberg. You could go crazy, add filters, do all kinds of stuff. Like, you could go absolutely wild with this. But I mean, as a starting point, just listen to this. That's gorgeous. So just to reiterate, our Bernoulli gate, which is a coin toss, is triggering 2 AD envelopes, one or the other, right? The attack and decay times vary slightly. That's triggering a sample and hold module via the end of cycle output here, okay? And that end of cycle is going into the VCA to limit the amount of sample and hold that you get, going into a quantum, which is changing the notes, right? And that's going into a palette, which is making sound. The VCA here is our voltage controlled amplifier, and that's going into the mixer. That's just gorgeous. I love it. So now that we have that established, I mean, think about it. VCV Rack 2 is like a full-on extension to our DAW because this is just running. Now I could go way further with this. And actually what I had planned was doing like, you know, outputting into different channels, but you guys get the idea, right? Like, this is the beginning. So where do we want to go now? Let's just keep it simple, all right? Let's keep it simple. We'll name this VCV Rack. All right, very good. Let's grab Pigments. And we'll do like a nice bass sound here, all right? Just to kind of keep it elementary, you know what I mean? New preset. Sawtooth waveform, okay? Lower down the cutoff here. Introduce some voices of unison, maybe like 3 voices unison. Lower the detune amount, lower the stereo spread, and we'll play somewhere around C1 or C0. Let's wait till our right moment. Oh yeah. Nice. Nice bass sound there. Okay. Add some reverb here from our send effect. Very nice. Oh yeah, open up that filter a little bit. I like it, I like it, I like it. Yeah. All right. What we can do here is add a sub oscillator here. Lower down the output amount. Okay. And we'll add some motion with an LFO. Okay. So on this LFO, we're going to make sure it's free running. We'll change this to straight only. And we'll lower down the speed to like 4/1. We can drag LFO1 up to the cutoff. There we go. Very nice. Oh, I think I found my bass line. I think I found my bass line. All right, let's make a, let's say a 4-bar loop here. Okay, and we'll draw these notes in. We'll make this 1 bar, just draw them in. There we go. Oh yeah. Just like that, and we will fire them all off together. There we go. Lower down our speed here to like 83 beats per minute. There we go. So now we have Pigments running. Pigments is doing its thing. We can add another sample engine here, maybe make this like a wavetable or something. There we go. Grab one of these waveforms. Pigments 4, human being. Oh, I love that one. Oh yeah, hear that? So what I did is I adjusted the filter mix a little bit, so it kind of bleeds through, you know what I mean? We can take a separate LFO here and make that free running and put it in random mode and then smooth it all the way out. And use this LFO to move the position. Just a little bit more motion. Use that same LFO on the wave folding mod. Oh yeah. I love that. All right, so we started in VCV Rack. We'll call this Pigments base. That sounded good to me. Your mileage may vary on this Pigments base. You might want to put it all the way through. There we go. Oh yeah. We'll go 8/1 here. We'll put a little secondary envelope on it too. So we'll change envelope 2's decay time to like, I don't know, 30 milliseconds. And we'll drag envelope 2 over to the cutoff. So it just kind of gives that little snap every single time the bass fires off. A little bit of snap. Very nice. Oh, that VCV Rack stuff is gorgeous, isn't it? One more element before we call it a day. All right, let's grab Stepic. Sequencers, Stepic. Very nice, very nice. And we'll grab Stepic and we'll change it to C natural minor, okay? 1/8, okay? And what we're gonna do here is grab some of the most logical notes that we can find. We're playing in C minor here, so we'll grab G, F, maybe a D. We're gonna up like 3 of those octaves and put it in random mode here down at the bottom, okay? So we don't know really where some of these are gonna land, okay? Because we have 3 of the upper octaves that are gonna be +1, so it could be any of them. We can also randomize the playhead order here. So we really don't know which one is gonna play. We turned off some of them, that's good. We can also add a little bit of divider here to kind of excite the sequence. So maybe 1 or 2 of these can be like ratcheted, okay? And we'll randomize that as well. We'll also randomize the velocity here completely. Okay, that looks good. All right, Stepic is all set. Let's turn off Stepic and we'll design blind, as I like to say. We'll go ahead and grab Serum here. Let's grab Serum and we'll design blind, all right? Let's go ahead and lower down our envelope amount, lower our second envelope down a little bit, turn on the filter. 24, add some resonance. Tie this there. We'll Shift Alt click. I think that's Shift Option click on a Mac. That makes it unipolar from bipolar. All right, go ahead and make this bigger for you guys. There we go. All right, now what we're gonna do is we're going to take a second oscillator and we're going to take a wavetable. You can use some of these digital wavetables. These are nice. I like these. I'm gonna use one of my own, okay? This is from the Science Patreon pack. All right, and we'll put that, the level down, and we'll keep that out of the filter, okay? And we'll just add some basic effects here. We'll add like, you know, a compressor, multiband, take the attack and release down, lower the mix down, the threshold down, there we go. Cool, add a little EQ, cut off the lows. That's good. Maybe boost a little bit in the highs. Yeah? Yeah. Yeah, just give it a little lift. There we go. We'll leave this on sawtooth. That looks good. We'll put a sub oscillator here, make it a sine wave, lower down the amount, and put it through the filter. That's looking good. We'll tie the velocity to the actual filter itself. That's good. And finally, we'll take an LFO, make it 8 bars, and tie it to the filter. There we go. Looking good. And we'll also move that same wavetable position with the same LFO. Okay? All right. Finally, let's add some delay here before we actually start. Put this through the synth bus, add our delay, add our reverb, roll the dice. It's signs of life, it's ambient. What's gonna happen? We don't know. We're about to find out. Yes. Very nice, very nice. Oh my gosh. You can hear how that complements. Oh, that's good. That is really good. So, this whole Stepic sequence is just sort of hovering over the top, but you can see, like, I mean, VCV Rack, Pigments, Serum, all inside of the DAW, right? Come on now. That is so good. I love it. Let's go back to where we started. We started in VCV Rack. We synced up the DAW, right? We synced it up. We added envelopes, we added sample and holds, we added VCAs, we added quantums, we added palettes, right? We use 8FO to modulate. But the point is that we sync this all up in the DAW. I mean, this is gorgeous stuff. And think about how deep VCV Rack can go. Like I said, this is very beginner friendly. This is like the tip of the iceberg. This is the edge of the rabbit hole, right? How far do you want to go with this? The one thing I didn't do was separate this out into different tracks, but we can do that. I mean, you know, another tutorial, part 2, maybe? And then we went to Pigments and just did something very elementary, right? A bass, a sawtooth bass. It has a little bit of motion, a little bit of movement, right? And then, of course, the classic, old standby, Stepic, can't live without it. You gotta love it. And Serum, you know, the OG. What can I say? Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. If you really enjoyed this tutorial, I do tutorials like this all the time on my Patreon page. You can follow me over there. The Ambient tutorials tier is where it's at. That's where I do all my tutorials. I've got Ambient presets here where I give all my presets away and all my samples. I've been going crazy on the modular, doing all kinds of like samples and stuff, sample packs, VCV racks I give away on Patreon. And of course, I'm an Ambient coach. I coach people how to do this stuff one-on-one, so you can sign up and join Patreon for as little as $3 a month. I mean, it's quite the deal over there. Anyway, I'll be back again soon with more tutorials just like this. If you guys enjoyed this VCV Rack tutorial, let me know in the comments down below. I love hearing from you guys. And yeah, taking care of you guys. And as always, keep your heads in the clouds and your feet planted firmly on the ground. My name is Chris from Signs of Life, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take good care.